Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in for this. We're here to kind of update you on where we're at with the process we've been kind of going through over the last year really, looking at our worship services and how we kind of frame them going forward in a kind of COVID-free world, which feels like a realistic possibility now, which is exciting. We've discussed it a lot recently at PCC, and we just kind of wanted to update you on where we've got to in that process. But kind of before we get to that, I think it's just helpful to just ask the questions to kind of like, why are we doing this? I'm not here on my own. I've got Stephen with me. Stephen, why are we doing this process? Like, what's the point in it all?
Well, it's great to be with you, and thanks, Will. Redland has had an amazing tradition over the years of welcoming people and sharing faith with people and helping people to be disciples and, as I say, just making them feel really welcome. That goes back almost generations. And in the 5.5 years, time flies, but 5.5 years I've been at Redland, I've seen that in operation. I've seen people come here and people be made to feel really welcome and to feel part of the family, which is great. And everybody is welcome. It's great to see everyone. There is a bit of a but though, because most of the people who I've seen joining Redland Church over this 5 years or so have been probably over 50, the majority of them. And everybody's welcome. That's great. I mean, I'm part of that group myself. But there haven't been so many people. The people who've been missing are the young adults and lots of young families. And there's been a kind of net loss of that group probably overall. And that's something that we just feel we really need to be looking at. And we just owe it to the future of the church generally, but also to the people who are around us to think and pray about how we can address that.
Yeah. And I think another reason why we're doing this is, we really want to go deeper as a church. We want to, be more transformed by Jesus such that we might be more of a transforming presence in the world. And it's not that our services magically do that, but they do play a key part in that process. And we want to make sure that we've got services that enable everyone, regardless of their kind of preference or preferred style, to be able to, engage in worship of Jesus in a kind of language that works for them, if that makes sense. So that's kind of another reason we're looking at this, which is why we've kind of gone through this whole process. So what have we done so far, Stephen? We've kind of been through a bit and we've got somewhere, but where are we up to?
Well, we've been doing some consultation. The PCC and the core team have been thinking about what we can do about this and what kind of services we might have at Redland in the post-COVID world. And we've had various processes of consultation that have gone on. And now we're at the point where we can start to launch things and move on and think about what we really are going to be doing next. And hence this conversation that we're having.
Yeah, and we, many of you remember, we brought to the church a sort of proposal for 2 morning services not that long ago, and the feedback we got from that consultation we've really taken on board. And what we heard in that is that people really love the idea of having kind of 2 different styles of service. They love the idea that we, do something a bit different to try and engage with different generations, that we don't just kind of carry on doing the same things and hope we get different results. But there was a couple of questions that kind of remained, and one was around timings. Particularly the time for one of those services was just too early for some people that they weren't able to make, and the other style of service that was on offer wasn't one that worked for them. And the other question that kind of remained is one of venue, like where do we hold the services? And there's a whole range of views kind of about that. So we've gone away, we've done lots of thinking, been through a bit more of a process, as Stephen said, and we've come to a place where we I've now got a kind of new proposal, and the new proposal is for 2 services again, but one of these services is going to be at 10:30, and the other service, bit differently, is going to be at 4 p.m. And we just want to tell you about what those different services are and what they're going to be like, and what this means. So, Stephen, tell us all about 10:30.
Wow, this is exciting. And 10:30, the 10:30 morning service, well, in substance, in essence, it's going to be a service with Jesus at the heart. And it's a service where we will be worshipping him, learning about him, becoming disciples, deeper disciples of Jesus, and we will be sharing our faith with people. So really, there's nothing radical about that service in that sense. Stylistically, it's going to be an informal service. It's going to be a service which is possibly more informal than we've been used to, even at Redland, which is relatively informal, but even more informal than we've been used to in recent years. Everything is going to be geared towards welcoming new people, particularly younger people. But the thing is, and I have to say this over and over, nobody's excluded from this service at all. The idea is that we would all make new people, young or old, welcome, and that there's nothing weird about church. We don't want anybody to feel that church is weird or strange. If there's going to be any challenge in this service, we want it to be the challenge of Jesus' gospel. That's the thing. That should be the only challenge to people. Everything else should be geared to making them feel welcome and at home. And there shouldn't be a challenge through the style of the service. In substance, so we thought about the style, but in substance, in a way, there's nothing new about our 10:30 service, because it's a service to do with, as I say, discipleship and worshipping Jesus. But it's really important to say that it's not a service just for young people. It's an opportunity for maybe the older people like me to reach out to younger people and to maybe sort of show our wisdom and our experience, if we've got some, of having been disciples of Jesus for a bit longer, and to reach out to them and to help them and to welcome these younger people, to show that we're a church which is hospitable and to offer our hospitality them. And that's one way where we, as older people, can serve the younger ones who come in and show that we are disciples of Jesus. But at the same time, there may be some of us who feel that the style of the service, which is very informal, isn't what we're used to and what we would like to come to as a way of our worshipping Jesus. So we are going to offer something for people to go to, which will be a little bit more formal, or if you like, more like the kind of service that we're used to going to at Redland. The important thing is that nobody should feel as though they're an outsider when they come to Redland. And so we're going to have another service. That's something that Will can talk about.
Yeah, sure. So yes, as Stephen said, we've got the 10:30, and then we've got, which he's just done a great job of articulating, and then we've got the 4 p.m. And in many ways, like Stephen said, it started by the service has got Jesus at the centre. That's still true for the 4 p.m. The substance is the same, the style is different. And so Stephen's already alluded to this, but the style of the 4 p.m. will be a bit more structured. It's helpful probably, it's not word alive but earlier. It's probably better to think of it a bit more like the old kind of pre-COVID 10 a.m. but later, if that's kind of a reference point stylistically. So it'll be a bit more structured. It probably provide an environment for people who've maybe grown up in church but kind of gone away from it. It will give enough familiarity for them to kind of connect in, and so provides a really helpful opportunity to kind of reach out. We're also going to be running so the morning service, we're going to be running full kids work from kind of 0 to 8 to 14. At the 4 p.m. we're going to be running kids work for kind of younger youth. So we've not completely decided on the ages of that, but it's probably going to be older junior to kind of young senior age. And the reason we're doing that is to engage with families who maybe do sport on a Sunday morning and so can't get there. And so we're not able to run a full kids work program at the 4 p.m, but we're going to run that to engage with those families. Stephen said this already, but the 4 p.m. isn't a service for old people any more than the first service is one for young people, nor is the first service a service for old people and the second service. None of the difference between these services is style. And so you go to the service of the style that works for you, where you find it easiest to worship Jesus. Both are going to be services where we're wanting to reach out and be missional. I suspect they'll probably work better missionally for different groups, and they'll do that in different ways. But what we are doing in both is kind of identical. The 10:30, I don't know if you said this, but the 10:30 is going to be in the halls where we are now. Not in this particular room.
I didn't say that, but
it's a bit small, isn't it? But the 4 p.m, we're got a bit more of a question mark over at the moment. One of the things we heard in the consultation is there's some people who would love the service to be in the halls, other people who would love to be in the chapel, other people who'd like the service, they'd like there to be a service in that chapel, but don't particularly want to go to it themselves. So we're going to kind of, for the moment, leave that question, decide on our service pattern, and then we're going to come back to the question of where we have that 4 p.m. service afterwards, just so we don't kind of conflate the issues unhelpfully. But Stephen, at 4 p.m, I imagine for many people, a bit culturally foreign, like afternoon church, really. I thought church was morning, and a lot of people watching might be thinking, well, the style service I think I prefer is probably going to be that one, but oh, how weird, that's not the morning, or that doesn't feel like church. Why have we gone for the afternoon, and what would you kind of say to that?
Well, when we did the process of consultation, one of the things that emerged was that for this service, which is going to be more like the service we've been used to in the mornings at Redland, to have that at 9 o'clock, which was initially suggested, it became apparent that for a sizable group of people that just wasn't going to work. So the afternoon seems an obvious next step. There are actually advantages to having a service later on in the afternoon. It means in the winter people can get to that service more easily than they might have expected, or they might find early in the morning. It means that you can go away for the weekend and come back on a Sunday after lunch perhaps and still be in time to go to church. It means that you can have a certain amount of youth or kids work going on, and that's something that we're going to be, as Will was saying, we're going to be exploring and introducing. And it means that you can have the option of possibly having the service over here in the halls, but also using the chapel, and that's something that we're going to be discussing. There are lots of advantages to having a service in the afternoon. It may initially seem a bit strange, but then there's a group of people for whom going to church at 6 o'clock in the evening has been the norm, and this isn't that much earlier than that. So I think it's something that we can adjust to. Lots of churches do have services at all sorts of different times of the day, depending on how big they are as a church.
That's really helpful. And so kind of where we're at now, PCC's met a number of times to discuss this, and they've kind of unanimously approved a way forward. And the way that looks is kind of two things. So they voted unanimously to approve this 10:30 service as a kind of way forward for us as a church. With the 4 p.m, however, we kind of, really get that for many people, whether that's just culturally or whatever have you, it's a bit more of a change, it's a bit more different. And so what we've done is the PCC has at the moment voted kind of to agree this service in principle. In other words, they're recommending it to us as a church as a course of action, but they've not voted to kind of formalise it yet. We're going to be having that discussion and decision at our next meeting, which is later on in March. And what we want to kind of do in between those times is give an opportunity for anyone who wants to have a conversation with us, to kind of chat about it, to kind of help people understand why we're talking about this, why this is kind of what's proposed, and to give you an opportunity to share any kind of thoughts, concerns, feelings that you may have.
Yes, so if you would like to talk to either of us about this, if you've got any questions or areas that you don't quite understand, Will and I are making ourselves available and for a morning time, afternoon and evening. So it should be a chance for everyone to be able to get in touch with us. And if that is you, then send an email to Rhiannon at rhiannon.redland.church. No, Rhiannon at redland.church.
Rhiannon at redland.church, you got it.
Yeah, Rhiannon at redland.church. And she will set up a time when you can get in touch with us, and we would just love to hear from you. Is there anything you need to add there?
No, I think that's it. And so, we're really excited about this. We really feel that there's such an opportunity here for us to step forward as a church as we kind of return from this COVID, for us to engage with people we're not currently engaged with, for us to see people coming to faith who we're not currently seeing come to faith, and just for us to see the ministry of Jesus kind of move forward in this place. And we're excited. I hope you're going to be excited too. And we look forward to kind of telling you more about what this is going to mean for us in the coming weeks and months.